My name is Sascha and I'm the USEP consultant out of University of Adelaide, Flinders University and Community Bridging Services. So today I'm here to provide some information in a snapshot session about disclosure and discrimination. These sessions are designed to give a very quick overview of some frequently asked questions that come up in USEP consultations and ways that you can get an understanding of how I might be able to provide some more support around your journey through university and out into graduate employment. So I'm going to start to share my screen. Okay. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So some of the things we're going to talk about is a very quick overview of what is USEP and disability, what are your needs, how, when and why to disclose, and I'm going to touch very briefly on discrimination and things that might come up around discrimination, some links and help and how to contact USEP for some more support. So the USEP program has me on campus to provide one-to-one supports to students with a disability or medical condition, including mental health, to progress through and finish your studies and progress out into a graduate job. There's lots of things we do within that program, and they might be things like applications and cover letters, getting information about employers and professional organisations, some professional development, looking at how you can develop yourself. Disclosure, obviously, is what we're talking about today. Advocating to employers and understanding what might be involved in being in the workplace and how that might impact you. And obviously as well, making those connections. How do you talk to employers and what sort of employers should you be looking at? I always put this slide in because I think it's really important to refresh the term disability is very broad. It covers a wide range of conditions, and I would really encourage you to talk to disability services or myself about your eligibility. For disability services within the university and disability employment supports outside of university, you do need formal verification of your condition. For USEP support, you do not need a formal verification. So I've got a slide here about different types of supports and adjustments. This is in this snapshot because I think it's really important when you're thinking about disclosure as to understanding what sort of adjustments and support might be out there for you along the way. So it's, and setting up your access plans as well, it highlights on a lot of this sort of stuff. So it might be things like adaptive equipment, different emergency plans, different communication channels that you can use. Maybe there's specific tasks that you can't do because of your medical condition and how you might be looking at getting around that, talking about that and managing that. So disclosure. Is it a secret and why? Why do we think of it as a secret? So a lot of it is about understanding your specific needs and determining if or what you want to do and how you choose to disclose about your condition. It's a very individual decision, and I think that's a very important thing to highlight. Disclosure may be different. You may have 3 people with the same condition and what they need to disclose or want to disclose may be very different. So it can be a good thing. It really helps employers and other services understand how to best support you and what access to services you need. Disclosure isn't a requirement. As long as you can do the inherent tasks of a job and you don't put yourself or others at risks, it's up to you whether you decide to disclose that information to an employer or support service. I would really recommend trying a disclosure plan. I talk a little bit about that later, and there's a link there to an example of a disclosure plan to have a look at. I think it's really important to understand what's involved in the job that you're looking to move into. So learn about the industry you're looking at getting into. Research, who are the employers? talk to them. You don't need to mention your disability, but talk to them about what are the sorts of things that happen within that job and within that industry, and what other sorts of jobs are available in the sector. Sometimes when you're doing a study, we tend to think about, okay, this is the job I want to do and this is where I want to be. But it might be that because of your conditions, there's certain things within that role you discover you can't do. So what are the other option B, option C? What are the other things there that you might be able to do? And does that industry actually suit your circumstances? What are your options around that? These are the sorts of things that in a consultation we can actually dissect and have a bit more of a look at and explore different sorts of options for you. What are your needs? So everybody has a different idea about what's important to them, and everyone has different support needs and skills that can make this happen. It's not always obvious. It's really important to understand your own needs. That might come from your access plan, or it might come from other experiences like study, volunteering, or your placement. Be aware, take notice of what works for you and what you find challenging. Past experiences really impact our future decisions, and particularly around disclosure. If someone has had a bad experience when they've disclosed something in the past, it makes them a lot less likely to want to disclose again in the future. A lot of people don't want to be recognised as the person with the disability and be the tick in the box. So why are you disclosing? What's important to you? And being comfortable and confident about being open about some of those supports you might need can be really beneficial to you in the workplace. Being aware of how you talk about your circumstances, so your tone and your content can impact how that information is then taken on by employers. And having solution-based communication is really, really important in this. So it's not just saying, I can't do that. It's, that is challenging for me. And if I get support in this way, that will make it easier for me. The employers really want to be supportive in most circumstances, and the goal is to make it so that you can be your most successful self. What is the way that you can work best and feel the happiest in the role that you're going into? Don't be tempted to overshare. They don't need to know everything about your full history. Keep it relevant to what is the tasks of the job and what is the job about, and the disclosure plan will really help you with that. And again, I'm more than happy to help anybody set up a disclosure plan. This is a little bit about what a disclosure plan may look like. I've got a link there, but also some key things to think about in what you might put together. Put it all down, get it all down, and then think about, okay, what will I use? What will I not use? Here's some examples about disclosure. One of them here, I have an anxiety disorder, which means that when I'm required to do oral presentations and work in groups, I may stutter and take longer to express myself. If I could go first when we have these requirements and use notes to prompt me, this will assist me. If it is not essential for me to do an oral presentation, I would prefer to do an alternative assessment or only present to a smaller number of people. So this is a really good example of that solution-based conversation and communication that I'm talking about. The person's highlighted what they think a challenge might be for them, but also how they overcome it and how the employer may be able to provide them with support around that. So again, I'm happy to talk to people about how we might practice and put together these conversations so that builds your confidence in actually having those conversations with employers. I've got some slides here about discrimination. I'm not going to go into it a lot. They're purely here for reference. This is a snapshot session and it's meant to be just a very quick overview of some of these key questions. I will say with discrimination and when you feel like you've been discriminated against, I would really recommend contacting relevant people and talking to them about, is this discrimination a valid incident of discrimination? And here is just some examples around what is classed as valid discrimination. And again, I've got a link there. So talking to somebody to get that proper advice is really, really important. Sometimes people ask about, what can employers ask me and what can they not ask me? They can't ask you things like your age, your marital status, your sexual identity. Do you have a disability? What religion? Are you pregnant? But they can ask things like, this job involves regularly lifting a box of 15 kilos. Are you able to do that? Do you need any adjustments to undertake any of the tasks that are required to do the job? Are you able to work early mornings is another example. That might actually be a company process. Maybe, you know, there's certain tasks that happen early in the morning that you need to be there for. So asking to be able to start your shift in the afternoon may not actually be suitable to that job. I've got an example down there of about if an interviewer asks a question that you think could be discriminatory. It's depending on how the question is asked. It might be that you say, I'm interested to know how that relates to the role. Can you tell me a little bit more? I've got another link there that you might want to look at with some more examples of questions that are relevant or not relevant in an interview situation. So sometimes understanding the employer's perspective is really important, and why do they want to know this information about you, and how might disclosure be really beneficial? So they might be asking so that they can provide appropriate assessment and adjustment. They may have a genuine desire to actually make a difference and have a more diverse and inclusive workforce. They also can identify that people with certain diagnosis, for example, someone who is neurodiverse, can have skills in a particular area and a particular level of expertise in a certain task or format. Also, lived experience can be really beneficial to particular roles. Of course, they have statistical quotas. And again, like I said, people are really reluctant to be the tick in the box. But if it can work in your favour and get you in the door, you still have to prove that you can do that job and you're a valuable employee. Look, I like to highlight too, they may not always get it right. People with the best intentions can use wrong language, or they can you know, it just might come across wrong, or they might not provide the support that they promised. They're things that we can talk about as to how you might be able to have those conversations with them as to making them better educated, or highlighting that, you know, there might be a different way that they need to do that. If you do feel like you've been discriminated against, it's really important that you gather clear and precise information. That can be through observations or through correspondence. I've got quite a few links that I've provided in this as to where you can get more information about this. Here's a little snapshot as to some of the things that you may need to consider when you're thinking about, would you lodge a complaint about being discriminated against? I would really recommend, for a starting point, contact either Equal Opportunity Commission, the Human Rights Commission, or Fair Work Australia. All of these can provide up-to-date, valid and real feedback on whether your concern is a valid case for discrimination, and give you support about how you can lodge that complaint and gather information about it. I will highlight that in a lot of the research that I've done, that you need to have your complaint done within 12 months of the last act of discrimination. You can also lodge a complaint on behalf of somebody else. I would also encourage you to think about what is the outcome you want when actually lodging a complaint. And again, these are things that we can talk about in the course of a consultation. Here's some links to some other useful resources. My contact details are there, so you've got my email address, phone number, or also I've got here the University of Adelaide Careers Service number that you can always contact me through. I have appointments open in Career Hub that you're welcome to book into as well, and you can book directly into them. We do have another session coming up on the 13th of July, which is about beyond university. So a lot of people understand the supports that are available inside university, but what's out there once you've graduated, or even if you're studying part-time, there might be services and supports that you can access. So we'll be talking about them. So thank you very much. I hope you've really enjoyed this session, and I would like to again thank you for your time, and I'm just going to bring myself back. And I really look forward to meeting with you or catching up with you to talk about how the USEP program might be able to help you, along with your careers service and disability services. We all work in conjunction with each other, so please reach out if you feel like you need support. Thank you.